Is 2026 the year for you to create your money plan? Do you want more travel, more fun, all with less stress? Join me and other money experts at the Money Made Easy Summit, January 13th to the 16th. The event is free and live. Join when you can to help you unlock an amazing 2026. Register with the link in the show notes. Okay, let's get on with the show. Hola, I'm Suzanne, a travel-loving money nerd, mom of two, and our family lives between Spain and Colorado. Here we discuss the stories, logistics, and finances of long-term traveling families and the many ways to learn along the way. Today we get to know Lauren and Tiago from Cohli. They share their journey from a whirlwind romance in Mexico to navigating the joys and challenges of slow, long-term family travel with two toddlers, and the reasons they formed Cohli co-living retreats in Costa Rica, Peru, Portugal, and more. Be sure to stick around to the end to hear their candid financial breakdown of Worldschooling costs and their tips that help them maintain a minimalist, community-focused lifestyle on the road. Welcome to the show. Please tell me more about you and your family.
Thanks, Susie. We're Lauren and Tiago. We have two children, Maya, who is 4.5, and Koa, who is 2. Tiago is from Portugal.
Yeah, I'm from Portugal. And we'll get into all of the details after.
Because right now you are in Costa Rica. We'll jump into that when we talk about your co-living opportunities. But I always like to backtrack and just understand how did travel become a big part of your life?
Well, we have very different origin stories when it comes to our relationship with travel. So maybe you want to explain a little bit of yours, Tiago.
Sure. I was born when my parents were already on the move. So all of my family is 100% Portuguese. Actually, we're Iberian from the Iberian Peninsula. I had all of the 3andMe tests done in the family. And so I thought we had way more Arabs in us because they have been for more than 500 years in the territory. But we are pretty much Iberian. My parents had me in Portugal, and at 4 months they went to Cameroon. So we're talking the 80s in rural Cameroon, which means no hospitals, no nothing nearby. And nowadays my parents go like, we were crazy, we shouldn't have done that. 13 years of Africa in like Congo, Gabon, Angola, Zaire, and so many other amazing places that forged my heart and my soul and who I am. So basically, I'm literally keeping going. That's how I got brought up, and I want a similar life for my kids. However, let's turn into Lauren and ask what's your upbringing like, Lauren?
So imagine that. It's the complete opposite. I grew up one of 5 in Vermont, did not travel much. The most we traveled was once a year to my mom's family's side. We would hop in the car and drive 8 hours for a weekend and then drive back. That was it. My first time out of the country was not until my early 20s. And then my first time leaving the country alone, I happened to meet Tiago. So it was for a work event, and my business partner told me, you've got to go to this. And by the way, I am not going. And I was like, I can't go alone to Mexico. I had the desire, I had the itch, but I also was scared. But I went, and that's when we met. And we fell in love very quickly, and we decided to keep traveling together. Like from that moment, I packed up my New York City apartment and then met him in Argentina. And then we've been traveling ever since.
So this needs a little bit more context. Lauren was living in Manhattan. She had a terrace with a garden where she was planting tomatoes and other veggies, which when I heard this when we were there in Mexico, I immediately said, like, I felt it, obviously, a strong gut feeling of, okay, this is it. This is it. She can't go very far, otherwise we'll never meet again. So I asked her to marry me, and she said, "No, you're crazy." We just met 5 days ago. Like, she said, maybe in the future. And so 3 days later in the future, I asked again, and she said yes.
Oh What a fun story.
It is a fun story. It was one of the best decisions of my life, I can say, because look at where we are.
Yes, that is so cool. So you were able to leave New York City behind, which can be hard, right? For people that have a passion for New York City, it can be hard to leave, from my understanding. But it sounds like you had a wonderful partner to continue these travels on with. So what did travel look like when you were pre-kids?
As you can imagine, two people who have met each other having the time of their lives. One being a very experienced traveler. We were just hopping around doing so many travels while also simultaneously working on our businesses. And so we were doing the Sacred Valley in Peru, and we were doing Carnival in Rio, and I mean, just having a ton of fun. And then also we were in Mexico, and I think it was a day later when COVID was announced. And so we had a decision to make, which was because we were not married, and Tiago is from Europe with a Portuguese passport, and I was from the US with an American passport. We were not allowed to go to either of those countries with each other. And so we said, listen, we're in Mexico where we met. Let's stay in Mexico and ride this out. And so we were there for a while. And then we were brought to Europe because Tiago's sister was having a baby. And so we got married in the Portuguese embassy in Mexico City. And I got my ticket into Europe. So we went to Europe, and that's where we said, okay, we're going to chill here for a while and stop traveling around so much. And then that's when we found out we were pregnant with our first.
Cool. And I can relate to having the access to the EU passport. My husband has a German passport, and my kids do now too. And it is very nice. But
Indeed.
okay, so now you're in Portugal and you're growing your family. When did you all start traveling again?
I want to give some additional context to what Lauren shared. The embassy, the Portuguese embassy wedding in Mexico City was our second marriage, because our first marriage was actually with a shaman in the Sacred Valley in Peru.
Oh, how special.
And then we had to get married again in the US for paperwork in Vermont. So I think what we're trying to do is every year get married again. So let's see
I
if we
love
can.
it. Some people renew their vows, but since you've already
Yeah.
started down this path of just keep the marriage part going. So
Yeah.
I love that. So now you have the 2 and the 4-year-old. What does family travel look like with the 4 of you?
We didn't stay put for very long. Maya was born, and I think she was maybe 2 months old when we said, okay, we got to start going again. Like, we were getting antsy. We didn't have the plan to stay in Portugal and plant ourselves there long term anyway. So we bought an RV in Portugal, and we did some traveling for 6 months in Portugal and Spain. And then we sold that and said, okay, let's keep going now internationally.
We put a stop on it because of winter in Europe. I was born at home in south of Portugal. Goa. Our second 2-year-old was born in Barcelona, in a very cool thing called Centros de Nacimiento, which is birthing home, which is a hybrid between hospitals and a house. So it's basically a super homey, cozy room in a hospital. It's incredible, like, to have this, and it's public. So right now, what our travels look like with our 4-year-old and 2-year-old is super slow traveling. We do at least 3 months. And then between 3 and 6, because we don't want to do the 183 days above for tax purposes.
Yeah, lots to consider with either residency or tax residency when you're
Right.
bouncing around.
We are perpetual travelers. Like, that's the status that we go for, which means we don't spend more than typically 6 months. For everybody that might not know this, in general, the default rule for countries is that 6 months, so 183 days. If you stay more than that in the country, then countries will consider you a tax resident there. And every time we move, it's purging time. So we accumulate, like, we're pretty minimalists, but even then, like, toys for the kids, stuff like that. So we purge. It's an opportunity to like light and enlight ourselves again. We're pretty slow and fixed. Like we stay in a fixed spot and then we visit around. We try to do as much local stuff as possible.
And that makes total sense with the ages of your kids, especially where for them, it maybe doesn't even matter what country you're in. They're just wondering where the cool playground is, but they are obviously soaking it in. So it's great to still be traveling. What have they shared about traveling? This is all they've known, right? But I'm curious, do they realize that getting the opportunity to travel is maybe a bit unique, or is this just second nature to them?
I think a little bit of both with our daughter Maya, because she has the response down now when someone asks her where she lives. She explains where she's sleeping tonight, and so like it is second nature. Wherever we are truly is like her home for her. She has moments like when she, lately, especially because she's kind of getting to be this age, and depending on who she's spending time with, she really wants to get that bike or she wants to accumulate things that are not easy to travel with. And so I explain how it's not easy to travel with it. And so that's when she has moments of, well, I just want to be in one place so that I can have the things that can stay in one place. She's starting to identify things that might be more of a challenge for her. But ultimately, I think for now, at least, it's in her nature to explore. And she gets so much energy when we transition to a new place and are with new people. And Koa, I mean, he's 2. So he's just kind of going with the flow for the most part right now.
Absolutely. You said they are a little young. So maybe you have been, for the education and the learning piece is really just taking place with them, experiencing what's around them. Have you considered what that might look like moving forward? And have you thought more about later?
The beauty of it is that because you're changing the structure and the context around you, you get different options. And in our case, it's been really nice to have multiple options for Maya, which like she's gone through like Montessori school with a huge mango tree in the middle and nets and webs around within the mango tree. Like it's the heart of the school. Everybody's barefoot. And for a few months she was in Portugal, very traditional, like arrive, sit at the desk, even at this age. And then we can get into what we do at Cohli in our program, which is like a combo mix of everything, nature-based, Montessori, Waldorf, and so on. But so basically, having all of these options, I think is, at least for me and for us, I think is one of the biggest added value, because she can navigate all of those different structures and different formats, and at the end of the day, like talking about world schooling, and I can relate to this growing up. I think one of the key components of living like this, and for Maya and Koa, for me, for all of us doing this world schooling, is creating adaptability, creating resiliency. Take this human, put it in anywhere in the world with any sort of people around, and this person will thrive in a wholesome way, And I think that's part of the beauty of our lifestyle.
It's such an important skill, the flexibility and adaptability.
Yeah, we've seen it come a long way with her. Like, I think this is one of the skills that she has taken on the most from traveling so much, is that up until 3, I think like a lot of toddlers, she was afraid of anybody other than mom and dad. It would take her a long time to warm up to anybody, even family. And then suddenly something switched, and now we arrive in a new setting and she's like, see ya guys. And she's like best friends with this parent who she's now calling auntie, and this friend that is living next door. And so now she is like the most confident little kid that I have met. And it's also cool because when there's a newcomer in like some of these different school settings she's been a part of, she's like the first one to go up to them to help them adapt on that first day. And this is feedback we've gotten from like teachers before. And I think because she knows what it's like to be a new kid coming into an already established group. And I guess the beauty of what we're doing with Cohli is that everybody is the new kid when we arrive to a cohort. And so everyone has this level playing ground they're on, and they all come together much quicker for this reason and adapt much quicker. So it's just been a universe of different learning formats that I never anticipated. And I don't know where our journey will take us personally, because we're very much so living in the present, and we're constantly talking about how to evolve and also following the lead of the children. We will see, but for now, we really like what we have going on with what we've created with Cohli in the school program. And then in between cohorts, tapping into the educational resources that are around us, depending on where we are, while supplementing with whatever we come up with.
I can't wait to hear more about Cohli. And I'm curious what languages you're speaking to your children, maybe what they're picking up based on where you've traveled, and what your intentions around language are.
Eu falo português com as minhas crianças. I speak Portuguese with them from the get-go. Like that's just what it's been. People ask me, do you speak in Portuguese and then translate to English? No, it's been, I guess, like you guys.
My husband has spoke German from the get-go, and it's amazing what they understand. They really only watch TV in German now. They've been to German school, but then Spanish was newer in the last 2 years, and they've really taken to that as well. I think it's a really great age to get started with the language piece, but they are going to pick it up and have such a strong foundation.
Mm-hmm.
Even if at some point you're not always in a Portuguese-speaking community, they are going to have a foundation from you, which is so cool.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's always nice to be in an airport or somewhere where we're the only Portuguese-speaking people and we can say things to each other and nobody understands. Mom speaks English with them, and then we've been a decent amount of time now in Latin America, Central America, so Spanish-speaking. I mean, Koa speaks better Spanish than Portuguese or English right now. So, Papa, ven aquí, acá. He's like, what? Okay, cool, fine.
Yeah. His language exploded like a month or two ago while we were living in Colombia. And it exploded with the 3 languages, but I wasn't expecting Spanish to be one of the languages that was coming out strongly. And it is. And I'm very grateful for it. And Maya, her fluency came also by surprise, but we were living in Panama and she was going to a bilingual school. She caught on to Spanish there. And at least in our programs right now for the last year, being in Spanish-speaking countries, they're getting their Spanish there. And then English from me and Portuguese from Tiago.
In those African countries where I grew up, there were no Portuguese schools. So my sister and I went to the French schools and we did the French system always. And I am considering, like, at some point it would be great to have them be a part of yet another language.
So would French be that, let's see, possibly 4th language that might come into the mix at some point?
I would love that. I think I would love to go back to Africa, and it has so many French-speaking countries, so it's super useful. But then there's also Mandarin, and so you can keep going, right?
Yes. I actually follow a family that basically listed out a very reasonable pathway for a child to speak 7 languages by age 21. Like, if you think about it, 2 to 3 years of immersion at some of these key ages is maybe all you need to achieve at least like B2 fluency, let's say. And so if you think of it, over a 21-year early childhood and young adulthood, that you really could accomplish a lot. So it got me thinking of a 4th language as well, and that French would be a great one just because it opens up a lot of doors. And then we're hoping to go to Japan next year, which I kind of think that could spur language that would be a much harder one to learn, but would be really cool to hear as well. So, well, thank you for sharing about that. That's really cool to see how language is a big part of people's world schooling journey as well. And I think as people are wanting to kick off on a world schooling or long-term travel, they're wondering, how do I make this work financially and logistically? What works for you all for funding your travels?
For us, we've had our own businesses. We then transitioned into only me when Maya and Koa came along, being on one salary. So I'm a partner at a Spanish tech company, and a lot of us work remote. And so that is one key component of our income. And then as we dive deeper into Cohli and make this venture like slowly sustainable, that is another component. So right now, those are the two revenue streams, although we do like the fire investing and that, but we're really far away. I would say light years.
Feels that way.
And then we have goals and so on. So pretty much $1,200 for accommodation a month is what we aim for. Obviously, it doesn't mean that we always get it. Lauren's a nutritionist, and now I didn't know, but I'm packed of allergies, and so we already ate really healthy, and now it's like ultra extreme healthy. So it's expensive, and that's like around $1,500 for groceries and food. Then we put 400 for restaurants, but not really. It's typically higher. And then education around $800 for both kids. Yeah, it really this varies a lot, but we have like a clear picture. Like for example, when we were in Colombia, the kids were going to a rural public school over there where there were 7 kids. By the end of the second day, our 4-year-old was hugging everybody, like the other students there. And the teacher told us like, listen, it's a gift. It's so nice to have your kids here. Like it opens up so many possibilities and perspectives for the kids that are from like rural environment. And so it's really important. And we know how important it is also for our kids to be able to connect with people. And so he told us, ethically speaking, I can't receive any funds payments from you because I'm a public school. I have salary from the government. So you can help us paint the school. And so that's pretty much what we did. We like invited everybody for a big meal and we painted and we had an awesome day. It's so amazing to connect like that with like local culture.
What a beautiful experience, though, that you got to share with your family and with the community there. And I do think this financial snapshot ties in closely when we're talking about co-living experiences, because that is bringing a lot of these financial pieces together, right? The accommodations, how you spend your time, the education piece. So I'd love to hear more about Cohli, where this originated, what it looks like today, what those opportunities are for families that are seeking more of that community piece. Because we talk about that a lot with Worldschooling. Like we could spend all day long traveling as a family, but at some point, one or all the family members are going to want an opportunity to connect with peers of their own age or other people doing this to know that we're not crazy. So how does all that link up with your opportunities?
So that year that we were traveling with Maya when she was a baby, a lot of the stops that we were making were to friends and family that we hadn't seen in a while. We wanted to catch up with. Some of them were also having children. So we were visiting them, and a lot of them said, hey, just come stay. We have a guest room. Come stay in our house. And so a lot of our trips were like that. And so without really intentionally doing it, we were cooking together in the kitchen, sharing our meals together while the babies were on the floor playing or putting the kids to bed, and then being able to sit around the table and just keep chatting. It just felt really, really comforting, especially as like being in that postpartum period for new parents. And so we were having these like co-living experiences without really trying to. And when we decided to do our own family travels after that, I remember the big one was right after Koa was born. And he had just turned 1. And I think a few days later, we were on a flight to Costa Rica. And pretty much as soon as we arrived, I already started getting that feeling of just like, this is really nice. And we're alone. Like, we love each other's company so much. And at the same time, like Tiago was working a ton and I wasn't working. And having 2 kids under the age of 3 was exhausting. And I was like, we need to find our people quickly so that we have some community while we're here. And so I remember creating a Facebook post, I think in one of the Worldschooling communities on Facebook saying, okay, we've just arrived to Costa Rica. It's great. We would love to see if there's any other families who might be interested in sharing a house with us. And like over 400 people responded saying they were into the idea. And it was this.
That's huge.
Yeah, it was like this moment of like, we're not the only ones. Like we kind of thought we were crazy for wanting to live with other families, but there are some other crazy families out there who would want to do this too. It was quickly like, okay, let's find some Airbnbs that are big enough to have some families and let's find the families. And before we realized it, we were organizing these co-living experiences. And of course, a lot of things happened in between then and now to really make this a bit more official from that first step. But some of those first people who wrote on that Facebook post we're living with right now or are arriving in a couple of weeks. And so we've had this collective, like, holy crap moment. We're actually doing this, you guys. Like, this thing we wanted, we're getting. And one of those families, like the first family who wrote to us more than 2 years ago, is here now. And this is their 3rd cohort and 4th time living with us. Complete strangers who just like was really needing that missing ingredient of community built into parenthood while also being able to experience different parts of the world. And slowly, we've been building in some of these other pieces.
I think this is really about connection and community. We are building Cohli really with this mindset, with this purpose. And I think that's really what it's all about. That's why, like, the reason why people seek us is pretty much because of this piece. I think the country matters. I think the casitas matter. And they're so little compared to the connection piece. We still look at each other with Lauren and we're like, wow, this is so marvelous. Like being able to learn so much, not only as individual, but also like learn and grow together as a group. So that it's been really, 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 really amazing. We feel so grateful that this is actually happening.
I love it. It sounds very fulfilling. And you're in Costa Rica now. When I saw the co-living opportunities are usually around 1 to 3 months. It looks like quite a few are closer to the 3 months, which really gives people time to get to know each other, be in one community together for longer. What are some other locations that you have coming up that you're excited about? And how did you pick these locations?
To be honest, it's really hard to find unique spaces, homes that are also affordable at the same time, and that can host between 8 and 12 families, which is what we try to do. Costa Rica is definitely a very hot spot, especially for North Americans. And then there's, Portugal. What a surprise. And then there's Spain, there's Italy, Southeast Asia. Anyway, so those are like kind of the hot spots, and it's pretty much like the places that we're working on for co-living residencies. We are going to launch our 2nd cohort in, supposedly very soon, our Colombian co-living residency that with Casa Suma Paz, like a marvelous host with Sebastian and Clara. Yeah, we're very excited about that. So that's going to be in June, July.
It'll be 6 weeks. So last year it was 1 month and everybody said it was too short. But also the hosts don't want to just extend to 3 months right away. This upcoming year, we're going to do 6 weeks, which I think will be a really nice amount of time for families to drop in and us to do a lot of exploring.
But what does a typical day look like?
Yeah, so it's at a retreat center. So every family gets 2 rooms. These are really like minimal, bright, spacious rooms. So typically a family will sleep in one room and then use the second room as sort of their like living, working play space, depending on the age of their kids and the family's needs, of course. And then there are several communal areas, and it's on a huge property. So you could explore the family's coffee farm. You could go walk up where the horses graze. There's a ton to do. And
You can go to the river, you can go to the cacao farm, you can go to the goat farm.
right, those things are outside of the property, but each weekend we organize a cultural activity. A regular day looks like waking up and having breakfast together in the huge comedor. We get meals 3 times a day prepared for us, which is like fresh, organic. Many of the ingredients are right from the food forest on the property. And then lots of parents are working and the kids are in the life school, and then we have lunch and we have dinner together. And then mixed in is co-creation of different activities offered by different members of the Cohli community. So just to give an example, last year we had a family from Denmark who has a meditation center. And so they gave lots of workshops on emotional integration and meditation. And then we had another family who is, comes from a teaching background and conscious discipline. And so she gave amazing workshops on conscious discipline and connecting with our children.
Jana loves to host tea ceremonies, so some parents would wake up at 7 and do tea ceremony. So that's kind of part of what we do as facilitating family at Cohli is we provide the structure to invite families to lead their own activities. And one of the best activities was Jack Autumn's 8-year-old that suggested a talent show. And he was the host and he organized the whole thing, like signups, adults, kids, doesn't matter. And it was one of the sweetest and coolest and funniest events of the whole month. And the spirit is really open for people to feel like they can step up and in if they want, or out and chill if they don't. So that happens. And then I wanted to give the example here when Lauren says the life school is basically we find a lead teacher from around the world. We try to make it as local as possible. So for example, here in Costa Rica, in Consumania, in this retreat center where we are, we have Gabi that is half Venezuelan, half US. She has experience in forest school and Waldorf. And then we also have 2 educators that are from Costa Rica. And the cool thing is that their experience is Montessori. And so together with them and with the parents, like we weave a program that is customized for the number of kids, the kids' ages, and obviously the context, right? The culture, the immersion, the forest school is perfect for where we are in the jungle. And so there's a lot of like exploration and games with nature.
That sounds amazing. I love to be able to incorporate, like you said, where you're at, have that already built in. It just makes it so much easier for families. And I love that the family members, the adults and the kids, get to all participate and bring their own strengths and their own resources and their own knowledge to share with the group, because we all come from different backgrounds. We all have something to share. And so I just think that's a great way to show to our kids that we can be vulnerable too, and that we're all still learning from one another, and just some openness to that opportunity. It sounds very magical. Sounds very wonderful.
I have to tell you that everything is not amazing. There are things that are really challenging and difficult. For example, we are on our second week here, and there are many of us included. We're still finding our flow as a family. Koa, our 2-year-old, is having a bunch of tantrums, and we can only guess what's going on, just like overstimulation, transition. So it's been really, really draining and difficult. And so us as facilitating family, just trying to also hold the space and support everybody, also adapting.
It's challenging, but what's beautiful is even just today, up their entire life to travel with their kids for the first time. And this was a week ago. Like, so they're arriving and they're also going through their transition. And yet Angie walked up to me today and said, "How are you feeling today and what do you need?" And it's moments like this, where of course, I just wanted to start crying in her arms, but I was like, no, keep it together a little bit. But I was like, it's so beautiful that we are all like adjusting, first week, of course. And yet it's such a reminder that we are among our people, because anyone who takes the leap to join a co-living community is someone who is going to be like, yes, I'm going through my own transition and I want to be here for you. How are you doing? And so it was such a beautiful moment. And that just like made the morning that much better to have that moment of connection and passing.
It's so important to share the wins and the struggles, because you're right. As much as sometimes from the outside, these sound like the most amazing, magical moments, we are still who we are. We're still parents. Kids are still going to have their moments. We're all going to have our moments. It's important to keep it real and know that we're going to have ups and downs. That's super important to share. You were going to say something else, Tiago?
Yeah, this family is amazing. Like they're literally coming from the lifestyle of being in the rat wheel and like in the hustle, and arriving to Costa Rica. Costa Rica is raw. And now I have ants in my apartment, and now I have no water or electricity for my meeting, and that's in half an hour. And I guess like it's part of the growth. It's part of that growth aspect that we were talking about, is like as an individual and also as a community. Like it's I had no idea what about what Lauren shared, and yeah, it makes me want to cry too.
Yeah, so special. Yeah, it does take a certain level of bravery to really step out into the unknown and vulnerability to experience new things, especially as a family. So I love that you can create a somewhat of a soft landing, even if there aren't ants and Wi-Fi issues. Right. A little bit of a soft landing for this family as they're making their transition. So this is so great. I cannot wait to share all those resources in the show notes so people can connect with you and look at your opportunities coming up next year. And I would like to do a lightning round. Quick hits on some of your favorite things. I like to start with, what is one item you cannot travel without?
Because we go back to the US every year, I normally stock up on sunscreen for the kids, because there's a really, really clean, healthy brand that I absolutely love there.
What brand is that? Because I'm always looking for, those like non-toxic, great sunscreen recommendations.
Yes, Badger is the brand.
Okay. I'll have to check that out.
And they are really great and they last a really long time.
What is a piece of advice you have for a family that's just starting out?
Don't overthink it. I'm notorious for overthinking, and it has gotten in the way of a lot of experiences and growth and fun. So that's something I'm trying to work on.
And to complement Lauren's contribution, I would say go with your gut feeling. Yeah, definitely go with your gut.
Intuition is huge. And then last question, if you could teleport to one place right now, where would it be?
Oaxaca, Mexico.
Sounds amazing. Yeah. How about you, Tiago?
I would go with Bocas del Toro, Panama. We really liked it there, and there's really nice surf too.
I was just telling my husband about Panama should be on our list in the near future. I think there's a lot going for it. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, I have many questions for you. I don't know if if this is part of the drill
Yes.
or not.
Yeah, you're welcome for sure. Yeah, you're welcome.
So where are you guys right now?
So we're in Denver right now, and then we'll be back in Spain in January. Sevilla, Spain. So I'm sure you've been there. I do love the proximity to Portugal. We've had a few opportunities to bump over there, but I want to explore more this upcoming year, especially when we're in Colorado. Our kids right now at a dual language school with Spanish. And then when we're there, it's a German school. And we're planning to do next fall Japan, and then maybe the year after that, more of like a gap year travel. This is an opportunity to learn about all these amazing opportunities, and I want to do them all right now. But it's great to get to shine a light on them. But we've enjoyed being able to spend time with Colorado family and friends and keep our foot in the door here. It's nice to do it all and have the flexibility to decide what that looks like for us. But I do feel like there's a little bit more even beyond Spain that is calling our name at some point. But the language piece has been great to like be in one place and really learn it for me and the kids. The German kind of came easy with my husband and him speaking. But then the Spanish, I felt like we needed to bring in some other resources. And also it gives us the flexibility that if we continue to travel, like choosing Spanish speaking countries ends up being pretty easy because so many of them are amazing and worth visiting. It just actually makes the combination of language and travel even easier for us to consider in the future. And you have a Colorado connection, I think.
Yeah, my sister is in Colorado Springs with her children,
which is a really pretty area with the mountains. If we're going to be in the U.S., I could not be upset that we get to spend time in Colorado.
Yeah, we have more time to spend there because we did one day in Denver and then we've only spent a couple of weeks or so in Colorado Springs. And yeah.
And how's the podcast going?
It's been fun. I would say it was an interest of mine for 3 years. And I finally just started. You know, it's one of those things. You just got to do it sometimes. You'll learn as you go. It's been so great to connect with people and have these conversations. If someone is looking for something that is minimal time effort and makes them a lot of money, that is not podcasting. It takes effort and there's really no money in it. But at the same time, it is still, I think, an important way to share stories. I love the medium. I love getting to hear people actually speak. And long form content is sometimes lacking, right? Like we can flip through short form all day long and it doesn't really connect with us. But I listen to an hour podcast and I want to go follow those people and see where they're going. And it just really gives you this opportunity to deep dive into people's experiences.
That's exactly part of the reason why podcasting makes sense as well. And part of the reason why we've recorded like 3-4 episodes and we still need to figure out how to edit, how to like do all of that stuff that you know how to do. And the pure joy of just learning from families and providing the ability for others to see that there are many different paths.
Exactly. And I think people really do turn to podcasts to learn just as much as to be entertained, let's say. So I would say if you have any inclination to, go for it. If you have anything that you want to share with the world, it's a great way to have it out there. I mean, 3 years later, someone might be listening to an episode that you put out. So it's a really interesting medium to explore. Thank you for sharing your time and your space with me. And
thank you so much, Susie. It's really nice to get to know you a little bit.
And you have a great energy for doing what you're doing. It's awesome. So keep it up.
The smile is like jumping off my face when I get to hear these stories. But thank you for validating that. So thank you so much. You guys have a great rest of your time in Costa Rica. That's a wrap on today's episode. If you enjoyed it, please do me a huge favor and tell a friend or traveling family about the show. And hey, don't miss out on bonus content, behind the scenes, and more on Instagram, Facebook, or Substack. Thanks for tuning in. Go send this episode to a friend. See you next time.